Hi, friends. This is Caitlin from Bloom Daily Planners. Today, I'm here to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to my heart, something that I have been personally struggling with a lot this month. And so that's the inspiration behind this live. I figured if I was going through it, I couldn't be the only one. And looking around on social media and in our Facebook community, it seemed like an awful lot of us are feeling very overwhelmed. So today we're going to talk about overcoming the overwhelm, and we're going to talk about how you can recognize and avoid analysis paralysis. So that's not like a new term. I wish I could take credit for something like that. It's pretty cute. But it's just like a real life struggle. Yeah, Kim, exactly. Survive and rise. Kick the stress. Exactly. Hi, Krista. Thank you guys for coming to hang out with me. We'll give it just a minute. I'll walk you guys through my kind of agenda for today while we let some more people jump on and hopefully find us. So like I said, I have personally been dealing with super overwhelm. For us here at Bloom, it's like, the new year, December and January is like our busiest time of the year. It's when our, new calendar year planners are out, and it's just like, go, go, go. But it doesn't just stop there, right? So we're moving into Valentine's and Galentine's and Random Act of Kindness Day or National Kindness Day in February. And then we're always planning for the next release way as far ahead of time as we can. But what that means is my to-do list feels like it just keeps getting longer and longer. And every day I feel like I'm chipping away at it, but it's never balancing out. It's getting longer, faster than I can cross stuff off the list. And so I just knew, I looked on social, I saw a million other people also saying that January took 6 months to get through, right? We made a post on our Instagram today that was like, congratulations, we survived all 177 days of January, because that's honestly kind of what it feels like. So we're going to talk about how to recognize the signs of overwhelm, why it happens, and I found some fun statistics and things for us to look at. And then most importantly, some strategies to recognize and avoid the overwhelm and how to stop analysis paralysis in its tracks. That's the goal. So when I was doing my research, I found a couple of statistics. I know I told you guys last time, the numbers really speak to me, right? So I'm going to read off my notes so I get the numbers right. 94% of workers report feeling overwhelmed at least once in their week, like every single week, 94% of people. So if you feel that way too, you're definitely not alone. Okay. And this one blew my mind. The average person makes 35,000 decisions every single day. I'm just going to take a moment of silence. 35,000 decisions a day. That's the average. So if you're a parent, a boss, in charge of other people, it's probably even more than that, because you're not only deciding for yourself, you're deciding for other people. That's crazy. I do want to take a second, and I see Nikki and Amanda are here. Robbie's here. Thank you guys so much for coming to hang out. If you guys have been dealing with feeling overwhelmed or have any, overwhelming projects, anything like that, definitely leave some comments down below for us. Let me know I'm not alone. Maybe even just like a little hand raise emoji. Let me know. And if you're watching this in the replay, I still want to see your comments and your input, because I go back to read those every week. So your thoughts are still being read and delivered to the Bloom team as needed. So if you have requests or questions, definitely let us know. Oh, poor Robbie said she is totally overwhelmed, right? Look at her. Look at that little monster face. Totally overwhelmed. Nikki said she's hands raised. She's very overwhelmed. We got Carrie checking in from Canada, and Miss Lisa is checking in with us. Awesome. Thank you guys all so much for being here. So now we're going to jump in to, the meat of this. So what is overwhelm, right? One of my favorite silly quotes from the 90s is from 10 Things I Hate About You. I know you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed? I don't think so. I think we tend to be overwhelmed from the research that I did. So overwhelmed is when you have feel like this feeling that there's just too much to do for how much time, energy, or resources that you have to tackle whatever that list is, right? So it might be that you have all the time in the world, but you just have no energy. Or maybe you're raring to go, but you have so many things that there's no way you could physically get them all done. So that's when we start to feel that overwhelm. I see Daring Northern Adventures is checking in with us too. Hi. Yes, you can come watch a live and that will help you escape from your overwhelm. So overwhelm is also often tied to, having really high expectations and pressure, and that can be internal or external, right? So maybe you're answering to a boss or a team and you have a deadline you need to hit. Maybe it's your own perfectionism, right? A lot of planner girlies, we tend to be perfectionists, right? Not all of them, but if we take a good look in the mirror, I'm sure some of us put a little extra pressure on ourselves, which can help us get things done, but sometimes it can get too much and it kind of stops us in our tracks. Let's see, Kim said it doesn't help that we all put our big New Year energy into all these goals and we put so much into growth expectations right off the bat. Exactly. It is a marathon and not a sprint, 100%. So if you feel like your resolutions list was like a whole page long and you found that by, January 31st, you're like, I don't even want to talk. I don't even want to hear the word resolution. You should go back and watch last week's live because we talked about kind of realigning and refocusing and prioritizing resolutions specifically. But those kinds of things are exactly what can lead to this overwhelm. And the reason it happens is it's an actual cognitive overload. Your brain has too many things to focus on at one time. It literally can't handle it, right? So cognitive overload, you start to get decision fatigue. So out of those 35,000 decisions that you have to make a day, in the morning when you're fresh, it might be easy to make those decisions and have the second to think about it. But every single decision you make through the day makes the next one harder for you because again, that cognitive, your brain is just constantly switching back and forth. And so you just literally get decision fatigue. You can't make any more decisions, or when you do, sometimes they're rash decisions and not what you would have decided if you had been in a clearer mind. We also start to build up on that perfectionism and have a fear of failure. So waiting for that perfect moment, waiting for the perfect thing to say, being scared that whatever you're making isn't going to be, the best thing absolutely possible can stop you from even starting, right? Maybe if you just started and made a draft, you could get feedback, you could make it the best. But if you're so scared of it not being great, you'll never even start. And when we're talking about signs of overwhelm, I've had a lot of times where I start to think like, oh, maybe I'm sick. Oh, maybe I need different medication. Oh, maybe my thyroid is acting up, right? And it could be those, to be fair. All of those are actual things that if you're concerned about, see your doctor. But overwhelm by itself can cause mental fog. It can cause more procrastination. It can cause exhaustion, headaches, irritability, frustration. Those are a lot of the things that I feel like I want to blame on something else, but it's like a cycle, right? The worse you feel, the less likely you want to get your to-do list done, the more upset and overwhelmed you feel, and it just piles on. So some physical symptoms, like I said, headaches, exhaustion, trouble sleeping, right? Emotional responses is, being quick to snap, being quick to judge, feeling like you're out of control. And then with decision fatigue, it's just, again, it's a cycle. You can't make the decision. It gets put off till tomorrow. That's one more thing on your to-do list for tomorrow. And then tomorrow's list just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So that's overwhelm. And next we can talk about analysis paralysis, which ultimately usually leads to shutdown. So when we're talking about that, it's when you're feeling so overwhelmed and you're overthinking what you should do next, you just opt out. You can't take action. You can't get started. You can't make the decision. Your brain literally just shuts down. Look, it's literally, Nikki just wrote it. When I'm overwhelmed, I just want to take a nap. Exactly. You analysis paralysis, you start overthinking so much that your brain just goes, no, thank you. And you take a nap or you scroll social media or you'll find a junk drawer to clean, which is great, but it's not what was on your to-do list, right? Or if you're starting a business and there's, LLC and legal paperwork and, really getting your website name, domain name, but instead you're in Canva designing a business card for 3 hours for a business you don't even have set up yet, right? So it's easy if we get overwhelmed and start analyzing things too much, we're overthinking, our brain will find the least scary thing to do, whether that's nap or scroll or binge a bunch of Netflix shows at once while scrolling. That's usually me. It's multiple things going on at once distracting me. And when we shut down, that's also part of the cycle, right? So all those little tasks start to pile up. All that does is make your, deadlines loom. It makes you even more upset. You start to feel out of control. Things just keep getting pushed. Not good, right? It's not good for anybody. So I want to talk to you about, let's see. There we go. All right, so we talked about that. There we are. Okay, so strategies to manage overwhelm and regaining your focus, right? If you guys have any tried and true strategies, even if you see them on here, please put them in the comments because I want to be able to go back and find these. We can make like a blog post and tag everybody and thank everybody. But I know our Facebook community has been dealing with a lot of overwhelm. It seems like everybody's weekly spreads are beautiful, but they're very full. So I'd love to take some of these tips back to our community group. If you're not in our Facebook community already, the link for that is down in the description. You can please come join us and share your experience, ask other people for advice. And that can be planning related. It can pretty much just be life related too. But we have a lot of fun over there. It's a great place to find some support. So when we're talking about strategies to manage your overwhelm, my favorite thing to start with is a brain dump. Okay. And to go with this is, look, Nikki said brain dumps are always her favorite, always helpful. So I love that. When I brain dump, I just take a piece of lined notebook paper and I literally just write. I'm right. Maybe set like a 5-10 minute timer if you feel the need, but I'll just write and flip the page over and keep writing and write thoughts, lists, things that I don't want to forget, right? Just dump everything. But again, I know you planner girls. I know how we work. And if you need a brain dump worksheet, I have good news for you because Bloom has a brain dump worksheet printable. Because of course we do, right? I have one here for me to look at too. So you just put the date, you put how you're currently feeling. Chances are if you need to brain dump, you're probably not feeling great, but maybe if you make this a more common practice, you won't get to the point where you feel so overwhelmed. So it has a place for general anything you need to get out of your brain, right? But then at the bottom, it also has some prompts to help you guide you through your brain dump if you like a guided solution, right? And this is something that's usually reserved for our mailing list. We do freebie Fridays every other Friday. If you're on our mailing list, email list, you get a exclusive printable. But I got Jen, our digital artists, our graphic designers, permission to share it with you guys here. So there's a link down in the description for both of the worksheets that we're going to be looking at today. So if you, as a thank you for hanging out with me live or watching the replay, you can run down and grab that in the description if you need a little guided brain dump. But the idea is to just write down everything in your mind. Like I said, thoughts, to-do list, important dates, how you're feeling, right? Just word vomit, honestly. I know that's not necessarily the best phrase, but that's what I think of. Just get it out of your head, right? Physically remove it from you so that you can take a breath and recenter. Because while that's all jumbled up in your brain, you're going to be stuck, right? And then once we see what's on that paper, then it's easier to move into figuring out what needs to get done first, what can wait, and just prioritizing. So we'll talk about that more in a second. But the other thing I thought was very helpful for me is this 5-minute rule. Okay. And the 5-minute rule is if you can get it done in 5 minutes or less, do it now. Don't even put it on the to-do list, right? And this is probably, these are two different things. They're not necessarily linked. If you are doing your brain dump and like 10 5-minute things come up and you don't have time to do them all, that's fine. The 5-minute rule is more for like throughout your day, right? If I am walking through my house and I see a basket of laundry, I'm like, oh, I should take that laundry upstairs. I'll just do it later. No, that's going to take me a minute, right? Just 1 minute to run that up the stairs now so my kids can start grabbing their clothes and putting them away, hopefully. Versus if I wait, it's just one more thing to the back of, my to-do list. So Lisa, the brain dump sheet should be down in the description. I have two forms linked down there. And it's, if you're on Facebook, Lisa, it's, you might have to go like out one box and there should be a thing that has like the agenda. And if you hit more, it under there, it should show it for you. And I can always relink it into the comments afterwards or send it to you, but it should be down there. But yeah, so the 5-minute rule, if you can get it done in 5 minutes or less, just go ahead and take care of it. And the other thing that I want to mention is I'm very guilty of building up in my mind how long something's going to take versus in reality, how long it's going to take, right? The last like 4 years, I do our taxes because, I'm a boss. And I put off doing our taxes every year because I'm like, I don't want to dedicate my whole weekend to doing the taxes. And every year I get them done in like a night, if even. Sometimes it's like an hour and a half. If I get everything and I ask, my husband to help me prep all the papers and gather all the things, I can do it in like an hour and a half. But in my head, it's a whole weekend every time. So this year I've decided I'm not going to do that. And then, an example of that happened to me this week. I've been needing to post we're hiring a social media intern, right? And I've been needing to put the job posting up. That's what I'm trying to say, for like 3 or 4 weeks. And every time I go to do it, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to take me all day. I have all these other projects. It's got to wait for tomorrow. But right. And then it got to the point, it's like, it has to go up. Do you want to know how long it took me to get that job listing up? 12 minutes. I timed it. It took me 12 minutes. I put it off for 4 weeks. Like that. So not only is it acknowledging that if something is going to take you 5 minutes or less, that you got to get it done, but you've got to start either timing yourself so you can note it or being honest with yourself about how long something is going to take to get done, right? Because something could only be 5 minutes, but we've built it up in our head that it's 30, right? There's times where I time myself doing the dishes because the same thing, I can usually knock that out in less than 10 minutes, but in my head, it's like an hour. So get really honest about yourself, or if you know there's certain things you routinely put off because of how long they're going to take, start timing yourself so that you have an accurate idea. Yeah, that's Nikki said timers are so helpful. And the same thing too, if your goal is to like declutter your living room, that could feel daunting that it's an all day thing. So maybe you make it declutter for 20 minutes. You set your timer, and when 20 minutes is up, you check that off of your list and you move on to the next thing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing for stuff like that. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the priority matrix, which is the other printable that's listed in the descriptions for you. So it looks like this. And the best thing to do is to do your brain dump or make like a master to-do list before you start this worksheet. And again, you can just make a cross on a piece of paper and fill this in, but we love a color coordinated, very nice looking worksheet. So we have that for you. So you're going to break these up. The axes on here is important versus not important. Okay. And urgent versus not urgent. Okay. So if something, when you're going through your list, is super important and super urgent, it's going to go in that top box, right? The to do first, the pink box. Okay. And if something is important but not urgent, it's going to go here because we can schedule that for later, right? So think of this as like to do today is over on, I'm hoping these are not mirrored for you, over on the left. And then to do this a week is to schedule, right? If something is really urgent, but it's not important, at least not that you have to do it, then we got to delegate it, right? That's our teal box over there to delegate. And then if it's not urgent and it's not important, either don't do it, right? Think to yourself if it really needs to be on that list, or that can be like, do this month, right? So we have what we're doing today, what we're doing this week, maybe what we're getting done sometime this month if we feel like it, and then things that need to get delegated to somebody else because we need help, right? And there's nothing wrong with needing help and delegating what you need help with. One of the things that I was dealing with this week, I was feeling super overwhelmed, and it occurred to me through the very loving suggestion of Emily, one of the girls that works here, one of our Bloom girls. She was like, have you had a one-on-one with Michelle? Man, words are really hard today. Our co-founder, Michelle. Me and her do our one-on-ones usually, and it had been a minute since we had one, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask her. And so Wednesday we sat down and we had a great talk, and having that support and that backup makes a huge difference. So do not feel like there is anything wrong with what you're doing, right? With asking for help, with delegating. Yes, there she is. Me and my one-on-one queen. Okay. So when you're making your list, like I said, think about what those things are that you have to get done first. And breaking it down into today, this week, this month is going to help make your to-do list a lot more approachable. So it's not just one jumble of things. It's not just one giant brain dump that you have to go pick things through as you need them. You can lay everything out nice and neat and know exactly the steps that you're going to take to get your stuff taken care of. Okay. Someone's saying, Mystic TV saying I need to be pointing to the other side, like over there. I don't know. You guys can see the worksheet wherever it is. Okay, the next thing on my list is the one thing rule, right? And this is one of my favorite things to talk about when we talk about, prioritizing anything. You can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? So instead of focusing on everything, you've got to prioritize and choose that one thing you're going to do. So an example of this is, I have to get my whole life organized. My whole house is a mess. Okay, well, if you're thinking about your whole house, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're not going to know where to start. So trying to get as specific and narrowed down as possible to the one thing that's going to make the biggest impact for you right away, or maybe the one thing that you can get done in the next 5 minutes so that you start, you get the ball rolling, you start off on the right foot. What's that one thing going to be? Because if you're looking at the giant picture, chances are you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to end up scrolling. Right. Let's see. Michelle said, important, not urgent is so hard to get as it's inevitable. Little fires always pop up during your day. You need to block out time for these and stick to it, said from someone still working on doing this. I mean, she's nothing if not relatable, right? We've all been there. But yeah, the important and not urgent is tough, because you're going to want to tackle some of it, but it's also going to sidetrack you if you're not careful. So like she said, try to set a specific time block. That's something else I want to try too, is time blocking. And the great way to time block or add your priorities in a way that you can keep on track of them is our second step there, which is using your planner. So I have my planner here. And just for reference, in case you want to see why I needed this live as much as maybe you do, this was my to-do list last week and the week after that. So 2 weeks ago, last week, and this week. I keep my to-do list in there and then just put, little stuff as it comes up on my days. And when I'm looking at that list, I can just feel my anxiety rising, right? It hits you. And so the thing that I'm not using in my planner is my priority tab. And it's there for a reason, right? There's only 3 spaces on those top priorities for a reason, because they have to be top priorities. Not everything can go there. So using your planner to help you space out what your monthly goal is versus your daily goal and your weekly goal. I know a lot of people like to use the notes and to-dos column of their monthly spread, right? This is my month for their monthly spread as the kind of catch-all, or for where they're going to put their monthly goals, right? Things that you want to just get done this month, versus having your weekly priorities up here. And then each day you can use your planner to mark what your top priorities are. If you have a vision planner, which Nikki had showed us in one of our previous lives as well, the vision planners all have this page before the month starts. And that's where you can write out your goal or vision for each category for the month. So this is a great place to have your kind of overarching or your important, not urgent kind of goals as well. They can live there really nicely. I'm so glad that you guys are loving this. I really mean it when I say that this one was as much as for me as it was for you. So my last technique that I wanted to talk to you about is time blocking. So I had just mentioned that it's, I think it's something that has gotten a lot more important or valuable, especially the more social media is becoming, prevalent and common, and the shorter our attention spans seem to be. It's like we're kind of being trained that we want things quickly, and we need kind of constant, input. So I know for me, if I sit down and look at my to-do list, this happened the other day, I was like, okay, I need to go write an email. So I went to write the email and I needed to pull a quote from, another program to put in the email. But when I opened that program, a notification popped up that said that so and so sent me a message over there. So then I went to that message and the person had a question. And then I went to go into Canva to find the picture to answer their question. And then when I was in Canva, I saw it just spirals, right? So I think that time blocking is going to, I'm hoping, help me so that it's like, no, this is email time, right? So I might see that notification pop up. Okay, well, I'll answer that when it's, Asana time, right? I'll answer that when it's Canva time. And if you break out your day into however much time you need, right? If catching up on your emails always takes a half hour, then you need a half an hour that's just dedicated to those emails. And if you end early, great. Now you have bonus time. But if you, are stuck, or you go down the rabbit hole, yeah, like Nikki said, if you give a mouse a cookie, exactly, it just is going to spiral from there. So time blocking is a great technique that I'm personally going to be working on in February to try to keep myself more on task and less likely to get distracted, knowing that I will have time to read those Asana notifications as soon as my emails are caught up. It's not going to get lost. It's just getting put off for right this minute so that I have a time to do that. Oh my God, that's so funny. Kim said, I call that a notification squirrel, right? Like squirrel, like absolutely. And it does take a lot of self-discipline, right? You're basically making a promise to yourself that you're gonna follow through, you're gonna stick to it. And if you don't, you stop trusting yourself when you make those promises. It's pretty tricky. So Amanda said, I'm afraid I'll forget that little task while I'm in Canva or wherever. That's why I can't leave it. That's how I feel too. And so I found like if there's any way for me to unread something, right? If I open an email and it's not email time, I do this all the time, especially if it's like outside of work hours and I open the email and I read it, but I don't want to answer right now. I'm going to answer in the morning. I will mark it as unread. Right? Or if there's like, if I get a text and I can't mark it unread, I'll take this is so crazy. I'll take a screenshot of it and email it to myself and leave the email unread. So that way I have a place that I know I can go when I'm ready to find all of those things so that nothing gets forgotten, right? Or I'll set an alarm. That's my third trick. I'll set an alarm that says, like, follow text with whoever, right? Text Missy. And I'll set an alarm for that for like tomorrow at 9 a.m. So that way it goes off and I'm like, oh crap. And I'll go back and find her text message. Oh, I don't know if that'll help, but it can't hurt to try, Amanda. Let's see. Right? Michelle said she's the queen of emailing herself stuff. Yeah, 100%. I love that so much. And Mystic TV said that's been working for them too. I love that. All right. So the last thing that I want to talk about is incorporating your gratitude practices. So the reason that gratitude is so important, because you might be like, well, that doesn't seem like a strategy for getting my stuff done. And it's kind of not, right? It's a strategy for stopping the spiral, stopping the mental overwhelm, all of the feelings that are going to lead to the shutdown. Gratitude is the cure for that because it's been scientifically proven that your brain cannot respond to anxiety and gratitude at the same time. They use different parts of the brain and they cannot both be turned on at the same time. It's like you're flipping a switch. So this is a technique that I've taught myself and my daughter. We both deal with it, anxiety and panic attacks. And it can be a hard one to catch yourself, like remind yourself to do. But if you're starting to feel anxious and you're starting to spiral, it's so important if you can to take a minute, and even if it's just in your head, think of 3 things that happened today or this week or this month that you're grateful for. And they have to be specific, right? You can't just be like, oh, my family. You have to take a minute because you have to fully make your brain stop what it's functioning doing and start doing something new. So you have to be like, okay, well, yesterday when I went to the store, I didn't see the thing that I really needed for dinner. And when I ran around the corner, it was in a different spot because it was on sale. I'm so grateful that one, I found it, and two, that it was on sale. It was meant to be. Right? Things always work out for me. I love that when that was like a trend that was going around. Or, my kids this week have been home with the flu all week, right? And it's been so overwhelming. It's such a drag. They feel miserable. I can only help them so much. Um, but because once they were both sick, there wasn't any point quarantining them from each other. I walked in the other night and they were curled up in bed watching a video together, which I get that screen time probably shouldn't be something I'm grateful for. But when they're feeling crappy, they tend to fight even more than normal because they're 8 and 10, and so they fight. So getting to go upstairs and see them being super sweet with each other, just being grateful for that moment of like sisterly understanding and bonding time can make the rest of it sting a little less. It doesn't take away from it, but if I focus on that instead of how terrible everything else was that day, it's going to help break me out of that cycle of only looking for terrible, right? The more good things that we focus on, the more good things we'll find to keep focusing on. If we're only going to look for bad signs and bad omens and bad things, then it's all we're seeing, it's all we're going to see. So you have to switch. And it's so weird that they've done these studies and they take scans of your brain and they can literally watch different parts light up and they can't be lit up at the same time. It's so crazy. Yeah, Megan, exactly. It's the law of attraction, right? What you see and what you do is just going to keep going. So if you're putting out positive vibes, you're going to find more positive vibes. If you're putting out things that you're grateful for, you're focusing your energy on that, then you'll have even more things to be grateful for. Exactly, right? So Mystic TV said, this is the thing I don't get is gratitude practice. And then once we talked, exactly, that's all it is. You don't have to think of gratitude practice as this like huge thing. If you don't want a worksheet, you don't need one. It's literally just looking for joyful moments and anything you can be grateful for in your day. That's all. And if you want to just sit down and go through a couple in your head, fine. And if you want to be working on it and you want to journal it into your planner, great. As long as you're cognitive of making that switch in your mind, because it's so important. So that is all of my list. That's everything I went through. It seems like all of these topics definitely resonated with you guys, as I assumed that they would. Like I said, in our community, everybody over there right now seems like they're doing, pretty good, but everybody seems very busy. So I'm just so grateful that you guys got to join in. We did a live every Friday this month for January. And we're going to be switching it up going into February because it was a lot. It was a lot. And I have no regrets, don't get me wrong. But I think we just wanted to kind of change up, what the goal was. So in February, I'm going to be live with Miss Nikki, who's on here as Carrie Grace. We're going to be live on Friday, February 21st. And we're going to be talking about decluttering because I know for me, that's a big one. And I don't feel like waiting until the spring for like a spring clean. I'd rather declutter now so that when it comes time to spring clean, I have space to actually clean and I'm not, moving clutter from one place to another. Nikki, you are a Nikki too. That's very true. And I see Craft Roulette is on. Hey, Miss Mary. Yeah, Miss Mary Gunn at Craft Roulette. We've sponsored spin sponsors over there. We've given out some gift cards over there for our crafty planner girls. She's been on every Friday for like 5 or 6 years, but probably more. Every single Friday, she's live at night. It's crazy. Um, let's see. Nikki said, I love the Fly Lady. You can't clean clutter. Exactly. I know Nikki from Carrie Grace has also done some stuff around Fly Lady. That sounds very familiar. And if you're not in our community, you got to join. The link is down in the description. It's a free Facebook community. You join. I'll be checking through applications. You just have to agree to the rules and stuff. But it's such a good place for, like I said earlier, for making connections, finding support, inspiring others, getting advice. We got you. Whatever you need over there, we got you. Let's see. Felicia said, lost track of my goals a bit this month, but I won't quit. Exactly. And Felicia, you might want to go back and watch last week's live if you haven't seen it, because that's exactly what we talked about last week. If you got off track, you do not have to quit, and you don't have to wait for a certain time of year, day of the month, day of the week, hour to start. You can just choose to start right now, even if it's in a little way. Every minute is a fresh start. Every day can be a fresh start. So don't let yourself quit on your goals. If they need to be shifted, shift them around. But we definitely don't need to quit. So I love that this hopefully will keep you motivated and keep you going. And Miss Mary says she loves her Bloom Planner. I love you guys so much. All right. So anybody watching this in the replay, like I said before, please leave us some comments, some questions. We want to know, what's your favorite strategy for avoiding this overwhelm. I'll go back and check over everything. For anybody that needs the links for the 2 printables that I shared today, those are down in the description for both Facebook and YouTube. And if you need anything, just go ahead and leave a comment, or you can always DM us on Instagram. You can email me, Caitlin@bloomdailyplanners.com. And yeah, thank you guys so much. I will see you back here, maybe earlier, but for sure on Friday, February 21st at 3 with Miss Nikki. And keep an eye out next week, because we have some very fun announcements coming your way. So I hope that you guys have an absolutely amazing weekend. I'll see you back here soon. Have a great day. Bye, guys.